A recent source has claimed that Apple has scrapped a more robust display that it had planned for the iPhone 17 Pro series. According to Mac Rumors, a source with trustworthy knowledge has revealed that Apple has discontinued the ultra-scratch-resistant anti-reflective display. We had initially heard about the new display last spring when it was released on Weibo by Insta Digital. Apple initially intended to just put the upgraded display on the iPhone 17 Pro and the iPhone 17 Pro Max. The new glass was purportedly more scratch-resistant than Apple's existing ceramic shield material, while also having greater anti-glare capabilities. However, according to the current source, Apple ran into issues when it comes to scaling up the display process. Part of this has to do with how much time it needed to actually adhere the coating to the screens. Apple had predicted this to some degree, which is why it opted to confine the new screen to the iPhone 17 Pro series. However, it's believed that Apple miscalculated the time necessary to finish the procedure, meaning it wasn't practical this year. Apple potentially removing the new display is disheartening, particularly when two of Apple's other Pro gadgets, the M4 MacBook Pro and iPad Pro M4, sport their own distinctive nano-texture screens. Originally launched with the Pro Display XDR, the glass is etched at the nanoscale level, which scatters incoming light while keeping contrast and color accuracy. Instead, we'd anticipate the iPhone 17 Pro series to just use the same fingerprint-resistant oleophobic coating present on previous iPhones. This coating is used to assist keep the screen clean by decreasing the oils from fingerprints, but it means iPhones tend to suffer in brighter conditions. This is a concern when you compare the phone's display to the Gorilla Armor 2 that was released with the Galaxy S25 Ultra. While we may not be receiving a new display, there's still a lot to be excited about with the iPhone 17 Pro series. It's worth treating the leak about Apple's display with a grain of salt, since we can't authenticate the source ourselves. We won't know for definite what the features of the forthcoming phone are, or how it will even appear, until we witness an official unveiling, which is slated to occur in September. Pricing is much difficult to anticipate, and not only because we are several months away from a probable iPhone 17 Pro introduction. The Trump administration is aiming to slap tariffs on other nations, with a special emphasis on China, where a lot of iPhone components are sourced and a lot of phone assembly takes place. As of this writing, Apple's phones have obtained a tariff respite. However, administration officials have cautioned that it's just a temporary exception. Tariff policies tend to alter on a weekly basis, but the longer the U.S. current trade war persists, the more probable and influenced tariffs will have on iPhone 17 pricing. Even before the tariff chatter appeared, one leaker said the iPhone 17 series will experience its first price bump in a while, but it's unclear whether that leaker meant every model or select phones like the iPhone 17 Pro. Though that report is thinly sourced, it is feasible that the iPhone 17 Pro's pricing might inch higher from the $999 that Apple charges for the iPhone 16 Pro, especially if the firm intends to offer the iPhone 17 Air for less than $1,000. Expect more clarification on iPhone 17 Pro price to surface the closer we get to the autumn. There's a lot due to come in iOS 19, but the one thing that's truly piqued my attention is the promise of enhanced external display compatibility. According to leaker Majin Buu, iOS 19 will enable USB-C iPhones connect to external screens to enhance the amount of screen area on offer. Apparently, this isn't a complete desktop mode like Samsung's DeX. Instead, Boo believes it'll be a method to enlarge your phone's screen area, while also providing a stage manager-like interface to the overall arrangement. Considering iOS 18 just enables rudimentary screen mirroring, that's quite the improvement, especially with Stage Manager helping to keep all the windows tidy. I have some worries about this, given Apple's increasingly muddled productivity portfolio. But the more I think about it, the more I realize I don't genuinely care. All phones and tablets should include some type of desktop mode and external screen capability. Majin Buu argues that the new external display capability in iOS 19 isn't a complete desktop mode. It's a means to enlarge the screen area of your iPhone, which they say is great for presentations, editing, or enhanced viewing. From the sounds of things, that suggests that everything will be solidly iOS. I imagine it implies your external display will feel a lot like using an iPad, sans the touchscreen part. After all, as much as Apple has attempted to convert iPad OS into its own thing, it still looks and feels like a larger version of iOS. The rumored presence of a Stage Manager-like interface only furthers that belief, since Stage Manager has made window management and multitasking on premium iPads that much simpler and more organized. Interestingly, 9 to 5 Mac speculates that Stage Manager may not be confined to external screens. It may be a vital aspect of making the foldable iPhone work, given the bigger internal display is going to have to behave a lot like an iPad. Having additional iPad capabilities, like Stage Manager, accessible on iPhone is going to make the move to foldables a little bit simpler. Boo notes there may be some limitations, either in quality or the amount of applications you may have open, which seems logical and is probably to be anticipated. After all, you wouldn't want the iPhone to cannibalize too much on the iPad market, would you? But as it happens, I truly don't care about any of it. If Apple wants its product lineup to seem like a Venn diagram of uses, then that's Apple's choice to make. The point is, iPhone customers shouldn't be denied of a potentially helpful function on the off chance that it would stop someone purchasing other Apple devices. If anything, having a desktop mode in iOS 19 will only make the iPhone a more useful and enticing device. The more consumers are able to utilize their iPhones in varied scenarios, the more inclined they are to keep using and purchasing them. The iPhone is the single most significant product Apple manufactures. In fact, of the $124.3 billion Apple made in its Q1 financial quarter, $69.1 billion of it came from iPhone sales. That's almost 55% of its income. It doesn't matter if the iPhone cuts into iPad sales, since the iPhone means a lot more. Me? I personally don't care about how obscenely wealthy the iPhone is making Apple. All I want is the possibility to make my phone more adaptable and helpful, particularly while I'm not at home. The reality is, the very act of being able to stretch a phone to a bigger screen is advantageous for a whole number of reasons. Just last week, I had a difficulty attempting to utilize a Roku stick on a hotel TV, since the specialized power and Wi-Fi cable chose to break on me, leaving the stick itself worthless. Had I been able to plug my phone in instead, I could have started streaming straight away, instead of watching whatever crap was on broadcast TV at the moment. On top of that, if Apple delivers a good desktop mode on the iPhone, we may see it spread to other firms. Right now, only Samsung provides something slightly equivalent with DeX, and even that has been mainly forgotten in recent memory. Considering how blatant certain phone manufacturers are in mimicking everything Apple does, having desktop mode on an iPhone can only be a positive thing for everyone. Next, iPhone 20 might be the most costly iPhone has ever built. Here's why. You may have thought that the impending iPhone 17 Pro makeover was quite a major move for Apple, but it might pale in contrast to iPhone 20. The difficulty is that this will end up being represented with a fairly pricey price tag. In the past, Bloomberg's Mark Gurman said that Apple is preparing a major shakeup for the 2027 iPhone. Apparently, this means employing a lot more glass in the Pro model, which makes production extraordinarily complex. Complicated manufacturing indicates the procedure is more costly. Gurman now observes that the iPhone 20 will require new components and manufacturing procedures, and as exciting as it is from a user experience aspect, it means getting production up and running is going to cost time and money. All of which Apple is going to attempt to recuperate in the phone's ultimate price tag. The second aspect to consider is that the complexity of the production implied this phone will likely have to be made in China. Gurman observes that Apple wants to make the bulk of its US iPhones in India by the year 2027, something he does anticipate to happen. However, the challenges surrounding the iPhone 20 production process mean that it's unknown whether Apple would be able to construct the smartphones in the nation straight soon. Apple has long complimented the manufacturing capabilities in China, emphasizing that the amount and quality of engineers in the nation make it a good place to produce cutting-edge devices, especially India. The nation isn't exempt from tariffs imposed by the Trump administration. Should they ever come into action, they're nothing like the amounts levied on China. The Trump has long targeted China in his numerous trade disputes, and right now goods from the nation face a 145% tax, which doesn't speak good for an already expensive iPhone 20 and might lead to the price tripling. Considering an iPhone 16 Pro currently costs $999, the notion the iPhone 20 might cost much more is terrible enough. When you take the threat of tariffs into consideration, that means this might be the single most costly iPhone Apple has ever launched. Assuming the foldable iPhone hasn't already been launched. This is assuming tariffs go into action as indicated. The greatest concern right now is the ambiguity around tariffs and the fact every time new guidelines are introduced, they are amended a few days later. Either way, you best start saving immediately. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more tech news and updates. See you for the next time. Goodbye.